The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Galactic Empire's scout ship, the Star Seeker. Captain Zix, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, stood on the bridge. His large, dark eyes scanned the star charts floating on the holographic display. Another routine patrol, Zix thought, his inner eyelids blinking slowly in boredom. Suddenly, a loud beep from the sensor station broke the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Ensign Vora, a small green alien with antenna, called out, "Captain, we've detected an anomaly in Sector 7G." Zix's antenna perked up with interest. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up, displaying a blue and green planet orbiting the yellow star. Zix's eyes widened. This was no ordinary planet. It teemed with life and technology. "Impossible," Zix muttered. "Our records show no advanced civilizations in this sector." The Star Seeker moved closer, careful to stay hidden behind the planet's moon. As they orbited, the crew watched in amazement. They saw cities, vehicles, and even primitive spacecraft. "Captain," the science officer reported, "we're picking up thousands of radio signals. This species has achieved global communication." Zix felt a mix of excitement and worry. The Empire had strict rules about contacting new species. But this was unprecedented. "Send a message to High Command," Zix ordered. "Mark it urgent." Days passed as the Star Seeker observed the planet they now knew as Earth. They watched the humans go about their lives, unaware of the alien eyes upon them. In the depths of space, the Empire's massive command ship received the message. Grand Admiral Krotak, a fearsome warrior with scales like polished metal, read the report with growing interest. "Humans," Krotak said, testing the word. "Prepare a first contact team. I want to know everything about these humans." Back on Earth, life continued as normal. In New York City, Sarah Johnson walked to work, her mind on the day ahead. In Beijing, Lai Wei taught a class of eager students. In Lagos, Ada Bayo closed a big business deal. None of them knew that high above, aliens were planning to change their world forever. The Empire's first contact ship, a sleek vessel designed to impress, entered Earth's solar system. Its commander, Ambassador Kix, had studied the reports from the Star Seeker carefully. "Remember," Kix told his crew, "these humans are primitive compared to us. We must be careful not to frighten them with our advanced technology." As the ship approached Earth, chaos erupted on the planet below. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces went on high alert. News channels broadcast nonstop, showing the alien ship that now hung in the sky for all to see. In the White House, the President of the United States sat in an emergency meeting. "What are our options?" she asked her advisors. "We've tried communicating, Madam President," the Secretary of Defense replied. "They're not responding to any of our signals." Meanwhile, in the Empire's ship, Ambassador Kix prepared to address the humans. He had chosen to appear on their primitive television networks. "People of Earth," Kix began, his words translated into every major language. "We come in peace. We are the Galactic Empire, and we wish to welcome you to the greater community of spacefaring races." Around the world, humans watched with a mix of fear, awe, and excitement. For some, it was the fulfillment of long-held dreams. For others, a nightmare come true. But in the Empire's command ship, far from Earth, Grand Admiral Krotak watched with cold calculation. "Primitive, yes," he mused, "but also promising. With proper guidance, these humans could become useful servants of the Empire." As Ambassador Kix continued his speech about peace and cooperation, Krotak began to plan. The Empire had encountered many new species before. Some joined willingly. Others needed persuasion. "Prepare the fleet," Krotak ordered. "If these humans prove difficult, we must be ready to show them the true might of the Galactic Empire." Little did Krotak know, the humans of Earth were far more than they appeared. The coming days would teach the mighty empire a lesson it would never forget. 1 week after the aliens' arrival, world leaders gathered in Geneva, Switzerland. The United Nations building buzzed with activity as diplomats from every country prepared to meet the Galactic Empire's representatives. Ambassador Kix stood before a mirror, adjusting his ceremonial robes. His assistants fussed over every detail. Remember, Kix told himself, these humans are simple creatures. Show them the benefits of joining the Empire, and they will fall in line. Inside the grand meeting hall, tension filled the air. The U.S. President, Russian President, and Chinese Premier sat at the front, flanked by their advisors. Other world leaders filled the rows behind them. Ambassador Kix entered with his team. The room fell silent. Kix's tall, slender form and shimmering blue skin made him look almost magical to human eyes. Greetings, leaders of Earth, Kix began, his words translated through earpieces. We are honored to meet with you today. For hours, they talked. Kix spoke of the Empire's vast knowledge, advanced technology, and the peace it brought to thousands of worlds. But as the meeting progressed, the human leaders grew uneasy. You speak of peace, the U.S. President said, but what exactly do you want from Earth? Kix's smile didn't reach his eyes. Merely your allegiance to the Empire. In return, we will guide your development and protect you from the dangers of the galaxy. The Chinese premier leaned forward, and if we choose to remain independent, a cold silence fell over the room. Kix's voice hardened. That would be unwise. The Empire's protection is not optional. Murmurs of discontent spread through the human delegation. The Russian president stood up, his face red with anger. You come here speaking of peace, but offer us only slavery. Kix's composure cracked. You misunderstand. The Empire. But the damage was done. One by one, the world leaders voiced their opposition to joining the Empire. The meeting ended in chaos. Back on the Empire's ship, Kix reported his failure to Grand Admiral Krotak. The Admiral's face darkened with rage. Foolish primitives. Krotak snarled. If they will not see reason, we must show them the consequences of defying the Empire. On Earth, emergency meetings were held in every capital. In Washington, D.C., the President addressed a joint session of Congress. My fellow Americans, she said, her voice firm, today we faced a threat to our freedom, not just as a nation, but as a planet. The Galactic Empire demands our submission. I say, we will not submit. Cheers erupted in the chamber. Similar scenes played out around the world. For the first time in history, all of humanity stood united against a common threat. In a secret military base, General Maria Rodriguez of the newly formed Earth Defense Force briefed her international team. We've analyzed the alien ship's technology, she said, pointing to a holographic display. They're advanced, but not invincible. We've already begun adapting our weapons to counter their defenses. A young scientist raised his hand. But General, even with these adaptations, we're still outgunned. How can we hope to resist? General Rodriguez smiled grimly. Because, Dr. Chen, we have something they don't expect. The will to fight for our freedom. And we have a plan. As Earth prepared for war, the Empire's fleet assembled in the dark space beyond Mars. Hundreds of warships, each capable of destroying entire cities, waited for the order to attack. Grand Admiral Krotak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet on his view screen. Soon, he thought, these humans will learn the price of defiance. But down on Earth, in cities and towns across the globe, humans were not cowering in fear. They were preparing, innovating, and standing together. The Empire thought it faced a primitive species ripe for conquest. It was about to learn how wrong it was. The night sky over Earth was clear and starry. But in orbit, hidden from human eyes, the Empire's war fleet waited. Grand Admiral Krotak stood on his flagship's bridge, his scaled fingers tapping impatiently on the command console. Begin the attack, Krotak ordered, his voice cold. Across the fleet, Weapons powered up. Beams of energy, brighter than the sun, lanced down towards Earth. The Empire's plan was simple: destroy major military bases and government centers, then demand surrender. But Earth was ready. In a hidden bunker deep under the Rocky Mountains, General Rodriguez watched as alerts flashed across her screens. "Activate the shield," she shouted. Around the world, hidden generators hummed to life. A shimmering energy field spread across the sky, the result of reverse-engineered alien tech and human ingenuity. The Empire's energy beams struck the shield. Most were absorbed or deflected. Some broke through, causing damage, but far less than Krotak had planned. On the flagship, alarms blared. "Admiral," an officer cried, "the humans have some kind of planetary defense system." Krotak's eyes widened in shock. "Impossible. Increase power to weapons. We'll break through their defenses." But Earth wasn't just defending. In secret bases around the world, pilots rushed to their new spacecraft, a mix of human and adapted alien technology. Captain Yuki Tanaka climbed into her fighter, hands shaking with excitement and fear. "This is Hawk Leader," she radioed. "All squadrons, launch." Hundreds of Earth fighters burst from hidden hangars. They climbed through the atmosphere, pushing through the planetary shield. In space, Empire ships turned to face this unexpected threat. Krotak watched in disbelief as swarms of human fighters approached his fleet. "Impossible," he muttered. "They shouldn't have this technology." The space battle was chaos. Empire ships, designed for bombarding planets, struggled against the agile human fighters. Captain Tanaka's voice crackled over the radio. "Aim for their engine exhausts. That's their weak point." Human pilots, trained in simulators based on scans of alien ships, targeted the vulnerabilities. One by one, Empire ships began to fall. On Earth, cheers erupted in the command bunker as they watched the battle unfold. But General Rodriguez remained focused. "Launch the counter-strike," she ordered. From silos hidden in deserts, mountains, and under the sea, Earth's missiles rose. They weren't just bombs, but carried a special payload, a computer virus, designed to infect and disable Empire systems. Krotak watched in horror as the missiles approached. "Shoot them down," he commanded. Many were destroyed, but some got through. Empire ships began to lose power, their systems corrupted by human software they never expected to face. "Admiral," his second-in-command reported, panic in his voice, "we've lost a third of the fleet. We can't maintain orbit." Krotak's face twisted with rage. This was supposed to be an easy victory, a simple subjugation of a primitive species. Instead, his mighty fleet was being decimated. "Retreat," he growled, the word tasting bitter in his mouth. "All ships, fall back to the rally point." As the Empire fleet limped away, leaving burning wrecks behind, Earth celebrated. In cities around the world, people poured into the streets, cheering their unexpected victory. But in the command bunker, General Rodriguez knew this was just the beginning. "Good work, everyone," she said to her team. "But don't celebrate yet. They'll be back, and next time they'll be ready for us." Captain Tanaka, landing her battered fighter, looked up at the sky. The debris of destroyed ships burned up in the atmosphere, looking like shooting stars. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." In his flagship, now safely away from Earth, Grand Admiral Krotak nursed his wounded pride. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Those humans will pay for this humiliation. I'll bring the full might of the Empire down on their heads." But deep down, a feeling he hadn't felt in centuries crept into his heart. Fear. These humans were unlike any species the Empire had ever faced. For the first time, Krotak wondered if the Empire had finally met its match. The battle was over, but the war had only just begun. 2 months after the first battle, Earth was a hive of activity. In underground labs and secret facilities, scientists and engineers worked around the clock. Dr. Aisha Patel stood in front of a holographic display, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "We've done it," she announced to the room full of tired but eager faces. "We've cracked the alien energy source." Cheers erupted in the lab. This breakthrough meant Earth could now power its defenses and new fleet indefinitely. Meanwhile, in a hidden base in the Sahara, Major Tom Chen prepared for a daring mission. He climbed into a sleek spacecraft, a hybrid of human and reverse-engineered alien tech. "Remember, Major," General Rodriguez's voice crackled over the radio. "This is a stealth mission. Get in, plant the device, and get out." Chen's mission was to infiltrate an Empire supply base on Mars and plant a device that would allow Earth to spy on Empire communications. As Chen's ship slipped quietly through space, back on Earth, a different kind of battle was being fought. In a nondescript office building in Tokyo, Hiro Tanaka, a brilliant hacker, sat surrounded by screens. His fingers flew over the keyboard as he probed the Empire's networks. "I'm in," Hiro muttered, a grin spreading across his face. He had just breached the Empire's main database, a treasure trove of technological secrets. Across the globe, in Silicon Valley, Sarah Johnson led a team developing new AI algorithms. "If we can predict their tactics," she explained to her team, "we can always be one step ahead." The Empire, however, was not idle. On his flagship, Grand Admiral Krotak reviewed the latest reports with growing frustration. "How?" he roared, slamming his fist on the table. "How are these primitives advancing so quickly?" His science officer, Zix, spoke hesitantly. "Admiral, it seems the humans have an unprecedented ability to adapt and innovate. They're not just copying our technology, they're improving it." Krotak's eyes narrowed. "Then we must strike now, before they grow too strong." But the Empire's next attack didn't go as planned. As their ships approached Earth, they were met with a surprising new tactic. Captain Yuki Tanaka, now leading Earth's space fleet, gave the order, "Activate the holographic decoys." Suddenly, the Empire fleet found itself surrounded by what appeared to be thousands of Earth ships. In reality, most were just realistic projections, a trick that confused and scattered the Empire's forces. "It's a trap," Krotak realized too late. The real Earth ships, hidden among the decoys, unleashed a devastating attack. Back on the Martian base, Major Chen successfully planted the spying device. As he snuck back to his ship, he overheard two Empire officers. "Did you hear?" one said. "Some of the subjugated species are starting to rebel. They say if humans can fight the Empires, so can they." Chen smiled as he took off. This information could change the course of the war. On Earth, the guerrilla war continued. Small, fast human ships would appear out of nowhere, strike Empire targets, and vanish before they could respond. In one such raid, a team led by Captain Miguel Rodriguez attacked an Empire communications relay. As alarms blared and energy weapons fired around them, Rodriguez's team planted explosives. "Time to go," Rodriguez shouted. As they fled, the relay exploded behind them, cutting off a key Empire supply line. These constant, unpredictable attacks frayed the Empire's nerves. Krotak found himself facing not just military defeats, but also growing dissent within his own ranks. "Admiral," his second-in-command ventured, "perhaps we underestimated these humans. Maybe we should consider negotiating." Krotak silenced him with a glare. "Never. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We will crush them, no matter the cost." But as he turned back to the star map, Krotak couldn't shake a growing feeling of doubt. These humans were unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. For the first time in his long career, Krotak wondered if he might be fighting a war he couldn't win. On Earth, despite the victories, leaders knew the fight was far from over. But with each passing day, human ingenuity grew stronger. The Empire had started this war expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that was now reaching for the stars. 6 months into the war, the mood on Earth was tense but hopeful. In orbit, a massive space station neared completion, a symbol of humanity's rapid technological advancement. Admiral Yuki Tanaka, recently promoted, stood on the station's bridge, watching Earth spin below. Her comm unit beeped. "Admiral," a voice said urgently, "we've detected a large Empire fleet approaching the Epsilon sector." Tanaka's eyes narrowed. "This is it," she thought. "The attack we've been preparing for." She opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Admiral Tanaka. The enemy is coming. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Today, we show the Empire that humanity will not be conquered." Cheers echoed through the comms from ships and bases around the solar system. In his flagship, Grand Admiral Krotak prepared for what he hoped would be the final battle. "We will crush these upstart humans once and for all," he growled to his officers. But as the Empire fleet entered the solar system, they faced a surprise. Hidden among the asteroids and moons were thousands of human ships and automated defense platforms. "It's an ambush," Krotak roared as explosions rocked his ship. The battle was fierce. Empire ships, though powerful, struggled against the swarm tactics of the smaller, more agile human vessels. And this time, Earth had a secret weapon. On a hidden base on Mars, Dr. Aisha Patel gave the order: activate the gravity disruptors. Suddenly, Empire ships found their engines malfunctioning, their weapons misfiring. The humans had found a way to manipulate gravity itself, turning the laws of physics against their enemies. In space, Admiral Tanaka's voice rang out. "All ships, concentrate fire on the flagship." Human vessels swarmed Krotak's ship, their weapons blazing. Despite its heavy armor, the flagship's shields began to fail. On the bridge, alarms blared. "Admiral," an officer shouted, "we've lost engines and weapons." For the first time in his long life, Krotak felt real fear. He watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by the very species he had dismissed as primitive just months ago. "Retreat," he croaked, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. "All ships, full retreat." But it was too late for many. As the remnants of the Empire fleet fled, they left behind a graveyard of broken ships and shattered pride. On Earth, celebrations erupted. In Times Square, Rio de Janeiro, Tokyo, and cities worldwide, people poured into the streets, cheering their defenders. In the White House Situation Room, the president addressed her advisors. "This is a great victory," she said, "but the war isn't over. We need to press our advantage." General Rodriguez nodded. "We've prepared plans for a counter-invasion. It's time to take the fight to the Empire." Meanwhile, news of the Empire's defeat spread rapidly across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, subjugated species who had long feared the Empire began to whisper of rebellion. On the planet Zorix, rebel leader Kalar addressed his fellow resistance fighters. "The humans have shown us it's possible. If they can defeat the Empire, so can we." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as hope spread like wildfire. Back on his crippled flagship, limping away from the devastating defeat, Krotak faced a mutiny. His own officers, long loyal to the Empire, now turned against him. "You've led us to ruin," his second-in-command shouted, backed by armed guards. "The Emperor must be told the truth about these humans." As Krotak was led away in chains, he couldn't help but marvel at how quickly everything had changed. The Empire, which had stood unchallenged for millennia, was now facing its greatest crisis. On Earth, Admiral Tanaka stood before the United Nations, her uniform crisp, her eyes bright with victory. "Today," she said, her voice carried to billions around the world, "we have shown the galaxy that humanity will not bow to tyranny. But our job isn't finished. We didn't ask for this war, but we will end it. And when we're done, the stars themselves will know. Don't mess with Earth." The assembly hall erupted in thunderous applause as humanity celebrated its greatest victory and prepared for the challenges ahead. One thing was clear: The age of human galactic expansion had begun. The grand halls of the Imperial Palace on the Empire's capital world, once filled with the confident bustle of bureaucrats and military officers, now echoed with whispered fears and hurried footsteps. Emperor Zixthor, ancient and rarely seen, sat upon his crystalline throne. Before him knelt the disgraced Grand Admiral Krotak, his scales dulled with shame. "Explain yourself," the Emperor's voice rasped, filling the cavernous throne room. Krotak, once proud and arrogant, now trembled. "Great Emperor, these humans, they are unlike any species we've encountered. They adapt, they innovate. They defeated you." Zixthor interrupted, his voice cold. "They humiliated the Empire." As Krotak was led away to face punishment, the Emperor turned to his advisors. "What news from our other territories?" A nervous advisor stepped forward. "Your Majesty, rebellions have broken out on 17 worlds. The news of the humans' victory has spread like wildfire." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the human fleet pushed deeper into Empire territory. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's most advanced warship. "Status report," she commanded. Her second-in-command, Commander Chen, responded. "We've liberated 3 more systems, Admiral. The local species are welcoming us as heroes." Tanaka nodded, a small smile on her face. "And the Empire forces? Retreating, but not without a fight. They're getting desperate." On the planet Zorix, human Marines fought alongside local rebels. Sergeant Sarah Connor crouched behind a fallen statue of an Empire official, plasma rifle in hand. "Push forward," she yelled over the sounds of battle. "We've got them on the run." The combined forces of humans and Zorixians overwhelmed the Empire garrison. As the last enemy soldiers surrendered, cheers erupted from the war-torn streets. Flar, the Zorixian rebel leader, approached Connor. "We owe you a debt we can never repay," he said, his 4 eyes blinking with emotion. Connor shook her head. "We're all in this together now. Your fight is our fight." Back on Earth, in a secret underground facility, Dr. Patil worked feverishly on a new project. Holograms of complex equations floated around her. The president entered the lab, flanked by General Rodriguez. "Doctor," the president said, "I hope you have good news." Patil's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Better than good, Madam President. We've cracked faster than light travel. We can now match the Empire's speed across the galaxy." Rodriguez whistled. "That changes everything." In the Empire's capital, chaos reigned. The Imperial Palace was in lockdown as protests raged outside. Inside, Emperor Zixthor faced a rebellion of his own. "You've led us to ruin," shouted one of his advisors. "We must sue for peace with the humans before it's too late." But the Emperor's eyes blazed with ancient fury. "Never. I will not bow to primitives. Prepare the World Breaker." A gasp ran through the room. The World Breaker was a weapon of last resort, capable of destroying entire planets. One brave advisor stepped forward. "But, Your Majesty, using the World Breaker would be a war crime on a galactic scale. We'd lose any remaining support." Zixthor's response was swift and brutal. With a gesture, he reduced the advisor to ash. "Any other objections?" he hissed. The room remained silent, fear palpable in the air. As news of the Emperor's desperate plan spread, many within the Empire's ranks faced a moral crisis. Some chose to flee, others to resist quietly. On a distant Empire outpost, a young officer named Vex made a fateful decision. He sent an encrypted message to the human fleet, warning them of the World Breaker. Admiral Tanaka received the message with grim determination. "All ships," she broadcast, "we have a new mission. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, now rests in our hands." As the human fleet regrouped for their most dangerous mission yet, on 1,000 worlds, people of all species looked to the stars with hope and fear. The Empire, once thought invincible, was now fighting for its very survival. and humanity, once dismissed as primitive, now stood as the galaxy's best hope for freedom. The final battle loomed, with the fate of countless civilizations hanging in the balance. The war that began with an empire's arrogance was about to end with a battle that would reshape the galaxy forever. The vastness of space crackled with tension as two massive fleets faced each other. On one side, the remaining might of the Galactic Empire, centered around the terrifying bulk of the Worldbreaker. On the other, the combined forces of Earth and its alien allies. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, her face set with determination. "All ships report in," she commanded. One by one, captains from Earth and a dozen alien worlds confirmed their readiness. This was it, the final battle. Emperor Zixthor's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Foolish humans and traitors, witness the power of the true rulers of the galaxy." The Worldbreaker's main cannon began to glow with ominous energy. But Tanaka was ready. "Now, Dr. Patel," she shouted into her comm. On Earth, Dr. Patel activated her greatest invention. A wave of invisible energy swept across space, enveloping both fleets. Suddenly, the Worldbreaker's glow faded. Across the Empire fleet, ships began to drift powerless. "What is this treachery?" Zixthor raged. Tanaka allowed herself a small smile. "We've learned a lot from you, Emperor, including how to shut down your power sources." With the Empire fleet disabled, the battle became a race against time. Marines from Earth and allied worlds boarded enemy ships, fighting through corridors and command decks. On the Worldbreaker, Sergeant Connor led the assault on the bridge. "For Earth and freedom," she cried as her team breached the final door. Emperor Zixthor, ancient and terrible, rose from his throne. "You dare," he hissed, raising a weapon. But he never got to fire. From behind, Vex, the young officer who had warned the humans, struck the Emperor down. "The nightmare is over," Vex said, dropping his weapon and raising his hands in surrender. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Many Empire soldiers, seeing their Emperor fall and their cause lost, chose to surrender. Admiral Tanaka's voice rang out across all channels. "To all Empire forces, your leader is defeated. Your Worldbreaker is disabled. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly under galactic law." Hours later, as the dust of battle settled, representatives from Earth and former Empire worlds gathered on the UES Defiant. The President of Earth addressed the assembled aliens. "Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples. The Empire sought to divide us, to conquer through fear, but they underestimated the power of unity and the strength found in our differences." Klar, the Xerixian rebel, spoke next. "For too long, we lived under the Empire's boot. The humans showed us that freedom is possible. Now we must build a galaxy where all species can thrive together." In the days that followed, a new galactic council was formed. Earth, once considered a backwater world, now sat at the center of a new era of cooperation and exploration. The former Empire worlds, freed from tyranny, began the long process of rebuilding. Many looked to Earth and its allies for guidance and support. Admiral Tanaka, hailed as a hero across the galaxy, stood in Times Square, watching as humans and aliens celebrated together. "We did it," Commander Chen said, joining her. "We actually did it." Tanaka nodded, her eyes on the stars above. "We did. But our journey is just beginning. There's a whole galaxy out there, waiting to be explored." In a refugee camp on a distant world, a young alien child tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Tell me the story again," she pleaded. "About the humans who saved us." Her mother smiled, looking up at the night sky. "Well, it all began when a mighty empire thought they'd found an easy conquest. Instead, they found humanity." As the story spread across the stars, a phrase began to be whispered on 1,000 worlds, a warning to any who would threaten peace. "Beware the humans. They beat the unbeatable. They did the impossible. And they're just getting started." And so, the galaxy entered a new age, an age of peace, of discovery, and of unity. An age where the indomitable spirit of humanity, combined with the diversity of 1,000 worlds, promised a future brighter than any sun. The war was over. The adventure was just beginning.